Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thanks for stopping by and please consider subscribing. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. In this tutorial, we'll be looking at this simple summer dress and it's very beginners friendly. So I'll be using this crepe fabric and it's about 2 yards. The length of this fabric is by 60, so I'll be folding it by the yardage. I'll fold it into two and I fold it into two again. That means I have folded it into four. At the top edge there, I will draw a line and that will serve as my shoulder line. On my shoulder line, I'll be placing a half of my shoulder measurement plus 1 inch. That's because I'll be doing a little gathers around the neckline. So I'm adding 1 inch to that. Okay, and because this is an off-shoulder dress, I've taken out 5 inches from my length and I'm measuring 8 inches. Okay, 8 inches, that's for my chest line, and I'll connect the edge of my shoulder measurement to my chest line, and I'll draw out the chest line horizontally like so. So I'll be able to connect it to my shoulder line. I'll first of all place my bust measurement. So I'll be placing a quarter of my bust measurement. Say I'm using bust 42, so 10 and a half as a quarter of my bust measurement. I'm adding 1 inch for ease allowance and I'll add 1 inch for seam allowance. So that means I'm adding 2 inches as my allowance. So I'll connect that measurement now on my chest line and I'll connect it to the shoulder line like so. Remember, I'm taking 5 inches as my off shoulder, so I'll place half length and my hip line and I'll take it down to the length of the dress. At the gown length, I will draw an horizontal line, and so to give it a balance, I'll go up at the edge there. At the far edge there, I'll go up with 1.5 inches and I'll cuff it like so. So now I want to make it a free dress. So the measurements I have on my chest line, that's what I will take down. I'll take it straight down to the gown length. Okay. At the neckline, I'm going down with 1.5 inches. Okay. And I will connect it to meet the shoulder measurement. And with this now, I'll cut it out. Cutting it out, remember I'm cutting the front and the back together. So I'll take out my side seams and I'll do the little gathers I want to do on the neckline. So make sure that the back and the front will be the same thing. This dress you can wear either side, okay? So you make everything the same. So I'll take it to the machine and take out my seam allowance and tuck in the gathers. So here it is, I have taken out my seam allowance, and at the neckline there on one part I have done the gathers. So just to show you a little of how I made these gathers, you run 2 lines of stitches and then you make it low stitch, all right? Then you now tuck it in like so, and that will form the gathers. So like I said, the front and the back has to be together. At this point, you can decide how wide and how narrow and how close you want your neckline to be. So when I'm done with the neckline, before I pipe the neckline, I will have to pipe the armhole. I'm measuring that from one end of the armhole to the other, and then I'll get a strip of fabric about 1/4 inch width and the length of this armhole. I make 2 of these pieces. I'll be using each of it to pipe each of the armhole. Now for this dress, I inserted a simple inner pocket. So I measured from my armhole. When I was taking out my seam allowance, I measured from my armhole 9 inches and the pocket opening is 8 inches, and I'm using this lining. I measured 9 inches width, and the length of it I measured about 20 inches. So I made it long because I want it to be folded. So I'll just take one of it and I'll turn the dress inside out. After turning it inside out, I'll take one part of the pocketing now to sew. Now remember, the pocket opening is 8 inches and the pocketing is 9 inches width, so that means half inch on both sides, will have to stick out. I'll just pin it. That's the part I will sew to the dress. I'll pin it on both sides. One side first of your seam allowance. Remember, you're sewing it to your seam allowance, not on the dress. So on the seam allowance only, I pin this pocketing to the dress. And then I'll take it to the machine and sew this part that I've pinned to the dress. And that half inch that is left on each side, that will be my seam allowance, and I'll simply sew it close. And that becomes our pocket. And I'll be doing the same thing to the other side. So now I have sewn it. Okay, so I use the contrast thread so you can see it. So I've sewn it the half inch, and this is our pocket. And like I said, I'll do the same thing to the other side. And I have piped the armhole. Okay, so I'll just take out the excess of this, the pieces I used to pipe it. I'll just cut them out, the excess that we have there, and we will move over to piping the neckline. Like I said, this neckline at this point, you can decide how narrow you want it and how wide you want it. And I want mine to be about 12 inches. Okay, so if you're making 12 inches for one side, it has to be the same thing for the front. If you're making it for the back, it has to be the same thing for the front. So I'll simply make sure my gathers is about that length. So you will need to measure that so you'll be sure. Okay, now I can choose to make it 10 inches, depends on what you want, but I think I'm fine with 12 inches. So measuring that to be sure of what I have, and I'll make sure they are the same thing. So I'll be using this piece of fabric. I measured length enough to pipe this, and the width is 1.5 inches. That's what I'll be using to pipe the neckline. So I'll make 2 because we are piping the 2 sides. Okay, so now to pipe the neckline, you fold in about ½ inch from one edge, just so you have a neat edge, and you pin it all the way to the other end. At the other end as well, you will need to trim out whatever excess you have, and then you fold in a ½ inch as well, and then you take it to the machine and sew that part. After sewing that part, you remove the pins that are there, and then you double fold it. Now you double fold it such that it will cover the first stitch that you have. I like to start from the back so that I'll be able to control the look of it on the front side. So this is the front that you're seeing. So I'll double fold it and pin it all the way from one end to the other. So I'll make sure that the fold covers the first stitch that we have. So after pinning it, I'll take it to the machine and sew that part. With that, we are done with the piping. This is what it looks like, and we'll move over to the sleeves. Now for the sleeves, I want to make a flounce. So I simply make do with the piece of fabric I have left. I folded it into 2, and I'm trying to get the midpoint. I'll measure the width, get the midpoint. I'll measure the length and get the midpoint. So now where they intercept, That will be my midpoint. Okay, and I'll form a circle using 1 inch. And I'll form a circle using 1 inch from the midpoint all the way around. After forming this circle, I'll simply measure the width of the sleeve that I want, of my flounce. Now you can choose to make it 5 inches or 6 inches or even lesser, but I'm making 5 inches. Okay, now from that circle, I'm measuring 5 inches all the way around. If you have noticed that I tried to form a curve at one edge of the circle, so that's where it's just a spiral movement. At the point that I no longer have 5 inches, I choose to stop it there and I'm cutting this out. You cut out the circle, and that helps to form the flounce. So I'll cut out the other part, and that's our flounce. So now this save for the two sleeves. Okay, so I'll simply make sure that the edges are uniformed, and I'll double fold the edges, and this is what it looks like. So now for our sleeves, like it is an off-shoulder dress, I took out 5 inches, but at some point I felt the 5 inches would be too up for me. I decided to make it 6 inches instead. Now at this point, you will need to work with what you took out, okay? But of course, this is very flexible that you can choose to adjust the way you want. Now I made it 6 inches, so I'll be needing 12 inches for this piping, and I'm adding 2 inches for the seam allowance on both sides. So that will be 1 inch for the seam allowance, okay? I'll make sure that the two of them are the same side. So I'll simply bring in the flounce that I've already cut out and hemmed. So I'll make sure that what I have there is tucked in with 1 inch seam allowance on both ends. I won't have to sew it all the way to the end. So even if you have gathers excess, you just tuck it in, and this is what it looks like. So like I said, I need 1 inch on both sides as my seam allowance. So I'll take it to the dress, and I'll fix it taking the allowance I have there on the neckline, like so, just the way you are seeing me pinning it. So I'll take it to the machine and sew it like a box, just to make it firm. So I'll do it to the both sides, and the second sleeve as well. I'll do it to the front and it to the back. So it means you have 4 points with which you sew, and that will form our sleeves. When you're done sewing it, this is what it looks like. And I'll simply double fold the hem, and that'll be it for our dress. If this video adds any value to you at all, give me a thumbs up, like and share. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video.